Jesus Christ. How am I gonna... Amar, can you grab this real quick?
Huh?
Can you grab this, the end of...
It's the fucking IKEA lamp.
Oh, that's... Oh!
No way. Marty, I hope you're recording all this.
I am.
Oh, that's not on the ground. That's just like precariously balanced along.
Every episode we'll just make a blooper reel.
Every episode's gonna be a blooper reel. How the fuck does a man get a light into his room? Oh, that's almost knocked over my entire computer, but it's on the ground now.
This is gonna be the TikTok content.
I'm down.
It's just me trying my best.
Oh, I'm sure the who is clowning around will change. But there we go.
You really think you're gonna drive all the way over
I have
here?
to edit all this out now.
We're starting on this note, Amar. Really?
What's up, everyone? This is Marty Team Beige, and today we are back with another episode of Team Beige Talks. I am here with new co-host Theo. Introduce yourself.
What's up? My name's Theo. I'm the new co-host of Team Beige Talks. I'm on Team Beige, and I'm excited. And we're also here with our other co-host,
I'm not
full-time co-host, permanent bastion of Team Beige Talks.
Very clear,
Mr. CEO of Team Beige, and he's like, "Oh, just have me on the podcast," and I'm like,
Mr. Muhammad Amar.
Yeah, I mean, we have some YCS toppers here. We got Theo with top 16 at Vegas. Y'all should go check out that profile. It's very, dated, but
super relevant,
super relevant content.
Yeah,
it actually might be. Going second cash is low-key better now,
isn't it? But isn't that what cash always is now? Like, I feel like every time I try and
I think
see
it depends on
first,
how
it's bad.
I think it depends on how the format's going to break down. I think the big thing, this is going to be a super dated segment, so apologies in advance, but the big thing that we liked with going second cash for Vegas was that a lot of the inboards were like very similar. So if you built the deck around breaking a specific type of inboard, you could kind of predict how you would need to play through it. So when you built the deck with Cashier, you could easily break the board and then just set up either OTK or establish your board, and they wouldn't have the gas to get through it. But I think that now that we're in a very diverse meta, or more diverse meta, I guess, it becomes a lot more difficult because the same generic board breakers, they're still effective, but they're not as completely ubiquitous.
I mean, Dark Ruler Evenly does Dark Ruler Evenly.
This is true. As a tried and true combination.
Yeah, tale as old as time. But hey, this is super helpful to our Time Wizard February 2023 people out there. For the
ageless format, as they call it.
The format that lasted a weekend.
Lock 9 will never die.
But anyways, we are here today, and we're going to be talking about, recently was the World Championship qualifier a couple weeks ago. I'd say one of the more formative events recently. I think we had a couple YCSs and a couple other events. There was Argentina, I think I was seeing, and then there was some other European events that were happening, like some smaller ones. But so World Championship qualifier, big one to look at as we're going into Dune format, I think. So we're going to be looking at some of and at least talking about some of the top cut matchups and decks that went into that. Then we're going to talk about Dune a bit. Dune, as of when this is recording, and it should be by the time of this when this is uploaded. Sneak peek is this weekend, and set comes out next week. A lot of exciting cards in Dune. Curious how much is going to actually affect decks that are already in the metagame, which is what we'll be talking about later. Maybe as well as potentially with rarities, how's that going to affect the market? And then just kind of like our predictions for the format and where things will go. But starting with WCQ, both of you were there in different capacities. You guys want to start talking about that?
It was great. We were just waiting on Theo to finish his last chance qualifiers. He barely snuck in.
You,
Uh,
you
awkward.
went with Sky Striker, right?
I did go with Sky Striker.
I got
I
that.
was not in LCQs.
I got that
but-
text from you or from whoever seeing that you were playing Striker, and watching your coverage on Twitter was fucking amazing.
It was really fun for a while. I think Striker's in a really weird place right now. The deck is pretty playable, but the big three decks of the format, in my opinion, were Labyrinth, Kashtira, and Despia. And I think that Striker struggles in all three of those matchups in different ways. So it's not necessarily the best meta call, but in terms of just the deck itself, it's pretty playable. But I wouldn't say it was necessarily like the best deck of the format at all. The two reasons I wanted to go with Striker were, one, boy was I sick of Kashtira. I mean,
Aren't we all?
I think that is a very
You don't
common
like special
sentiment
summon
right
unicorn,
now.
special fender, Theo says?
It's a really creative play the first 40 to 70,000 times you do it, but the 70,001st time you start to get a little tired of it. But yeah, I didn't really love Kashtira. Like it just felt samey. I hadn't been playing a ton, so I wasn't necessarily like, I wanted to do as well as I could, but I wasn't banking on topping or anything. So I just wanted to play something that was more fun, and I didn't love any of the other meta decks. And the other big thing is I didn't think a lot of people would be side decking for Sky Striker. I mean, there's going to be some generic back row stuff, but in general, I did experience that playing a going second deck with board breakers in the main and playing a deck that is a little bit more rogue played to my advantage for quite a while. The later I got into the tournament, the more it started to taper off, but especially early on, it was very, very strong.
Yeah, I mean, Sky Striker notoriously has a great ability to go second. It just struggles with a lot of those one-for-one interactions.
Right.
Arise Heart and Shangira being on the field already makes your Afterburner a bit difficult. You have to literally, you need either Widow Anchor plus Afterburner to be able to efficiently deal with it. But with the addition of Thrust out of Hypernova, it really pushed Striker back into contingency with Engage coming back to 2.
Thrust is absolutely insane. That card comes up, especially just with a Rise Heart having the mandatory effect. It's so easy to get Thrust to be live. So if you just play a list of Thrust targets, that card is crazy.
Did you play hand traps in your list?
I played Ash and Droll in the main, as well as Imperms, and then I played, I want to say, Bell in the side. It's been like a week or two since the NAWCQ, so it's not quite as fresh. But I played a little bit.
That's interesting because I remember seeing, I think it was either post banless or post Hypernova when people were thinking about Striker. It was post banless. A lot of them were going down a 5 to 7 card monster lineup in terms of your 3 pilots, 1 Rose if you're playing that, and then 3 Ash, and then maybe a Pankratops, and the rest is just 35 spells, which were power spells. And I remember seeing the argument of either committing to hand traps or board breakers, or if there was that in between, which Striker does have the space for, but then it does affect your spell consistency.
Right. I think that with the introduction of the second engage as well as thrust, it's not impossible to brick, but the spell consistency is a lot stronger than it used to be. And I think that Striker is very, very good at 1-for-1 trades, because generally if I'm taking 1-for-1 trades with you, over time I will out-resource you because I'm better at recursion. The stuff like Ash and Droll are for matchups where either once they set up, I am not able to interact effectively anymore, like True, Break My Board, or stuff like Branded. I think one of the big issues with Branded is that is arguably better at Striker with resource loops. It seems like that deck just never runs out of resources. So you need to have some way to interact with them turn 0, because once they get started, it's really hard to catch up.
Yeah, and with already in archetype protection in the form of opening, Sanctifier can't be targeted, which are already massive threats to the deck. At least in my opinion, even if they're not going Gimmick Puppet, because you get the target for multi-roll, and can hit it with area 0, but then you otherwise have to commit a Ray or a Rose and go into Zeke, and they can just remove it with Mirror Jade, which is really good. Amar, what did you play? I know that you...
Don't talk to me. I don't want to talk about it.
Okay, you played, but like, talk about what you did, because you were still doing stuff.
So I was only there for 4 rounds. I had to leave for one of my good friend's weddings. That was also in the area. But in those 4 rounds, I played something spicy that was developed at the cave. It was this, I guess, what do we call it? Base? Bass? Base? Bestial Adventure Sprite Synchro. Which was a really cool list. It was packed down to 40. The reason why I didn't like it was that there weren't any going second cards. There were 2 talents in the main. But there weren't really any going second cards. And in a format of variants like this, you need to be able to have going second cards, or your engine needs to be able to deal inherently with the boards that are being made. And like the Bishops could kind of deal with like branded, or they could deal with branded, they could kind of deal with lab. But I think Theo mentioned the big 3, which I disagree with. I would call it the big 4, include Runic in there, and Runic variants.
That's fair.
The Bishops didn't do nearly enough against Runic or Cash, which was actually most of the field. In terms of representation, I think I played like one branded guy. I played there was also Rika. Rika was all over the place too. They were trashing Rika. The Bishul engine is really strong as an engine, like getting the regained resources, also getting the beast pop, getting the different utilities through like Magnum searching, not just the Bishuls but like engine as well, like Apple Dragon, is really good. The only issue is that playing second, it's just so hard to play. But like I resolved my combo a few times. It was sick because you go straight from like the fusion line into the synchro line into the sprite line, and it's a really
combo's
cool
crazy when it works.
Yeah,
it's crazy. Yeah,
we were
you end up
for a
with
while.
like you end up with interactions in hand, interactions in grave, interactions in back row, and monsters. So it's cool when it works, but I think we were talking about this. It's just not a meta for synchro decks right now, since there's shifter decks in the format. Since it's just so much of a variance format, the synchro decks just aren't meant to be right now. But I think as we enter like Dune or post Dune, especially with hopefully a ban of shifter incoming, maybe we can see a synchro format. I don't know. What do you guys think?
The new stuff in Manadium I've heard is very good, and also even just the generic synchron support is really good. Lately we were seeing a lot of adventure synchron popping up in at least like OTSs. I don't know exactly. I did a tournament with friends recently that used the new synchro cards like Revolution, and the Stardust Worm is really good. And I think they have a field spell that is also really well coming out of the set. But I think a lot of people also have their eyes on Manadium, considering that is also a recent set release.
Yeah, I think after Dune, some of the stuff that Manadium is getting, that deck is going to be... I already thought it was a fairly scary deck, but I think that deck has a lot of potential to be pretty threatening.
Yeah, especially with, I mean, elements of the... It uses a lot of the Kashtira and Scareclaw engine. Patrick Hoban, I think, as we're going to dip into specific lists from the WCQ, I think it was Patrick Hoban. He ended up taking that exact deck and ended up topping with it, where it's labeled as a Kashtira list, but it ended up having a Scareclaw and a Manadium engine in it. And I think it was basically just doing the generic like Manadium combo, but it was just using Fenrir's and Unicorns. So what do you guys think on a deck like that moving forward, where we have something from, I guess, this older format, but as we start to get new stuff, do you think we'll start to see like Cash become more of an engine, especially if it gets some limitations, or further limitations? Or do you think we're gonna see, like, was this an anomaly out of Top Cut?
I think we already see a decent amount of cash being splashed in as an engine. I mean, a ton of decks will play the 3 Fenrir just because it's so easy to play. But even then, there'll be a little bit of a more aggressive cash. I know like Vanquish Soul will play Fenrirs and Rise Hearts and stuff. I think it's a very splashable deck, and I think that maybe with the new stuff coming out as the actual cash tier board starts to lag behind in power, or if it gets hit further, it definitely like still has playability.
I think the decks that are good are gonna stay good. But you're gonna introduce some newer decks into the format that can counter in different ways, which is really cool. For example, like the Rescue Ace deck, it's going first board. Why are you laughing, Theo? No, why are you laughing?
Me?
Why are you both laughing?
Because you say Rescue Ace?
Keep going.
Get the fucking... Let's go.
Okay, anyways, Rescue Ace is not a good deck. It could be an okay deck. If I had all CRs, I think it would have been a good deck to play, but I guess not.
That was
Stop.
a jab.
Stop.
That was a targeted
Stop.
attack.
You guys
So
were laughing in the middle of me talking, so this is what you get.
at YCS Philly, I decided that I wanted to pick up a fun bad deck just to mess around with. And I picked up the Rescue Ace CRs for dirt cheap. And I was stoked on it, and I was testing with it, and the deck was pretty alright. And then there's the new support coming out, which is very good in the OCG, and people think is going to be very good in the TCG. Now, we can get into that in a second, but reluctantly, I parted with my Rescue Ace cards at Nats, and there's not been a moment that went by since doing so where I do not feel the void deep within my heart that those cards left.
Hydrant
You got some
has...
good trades for them, though.
Yeah, you got... Yeah.
I got good value, but at the same time, money can't replace family, and
The
I'm gonna miss those
You
cards.
did not care about those fire hydrants. How is that CR Phoenix?
He did at Philly. I was there for that.
Yeah, I cared about them a lot at Philly, and then I tested with them extensively, solo mode in Edo Pro, so it was really serious.
Oh, yeah.
I tried to test with them against other people and came to the conclusion that the deck was really bad. I personally think that the new support is very solid and helps the deck do what it tries to do quite a bit better. I still don't think the deck is going to be a top tier deck in the TCG. I think
it counters things in different ways.
I would say, but is that something that we need though? Do we need something to take over like tier 1 status, or do we just need something that is going to help make the format a bit healthier?
Right. I'm in a weird spot on that because I don't know if it'll make the format healthier. I agree in general that my headset just turned off, so that's neat. I agree in general that it's in a weird place where it's not unhealthy to be a sub tier 1 deck, but the way the deck kind of generically plays is a little, I don't know. I mean, set 4 pass is an aggressive way to play Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yeah, it has an interesting resource loop. Given they're all fire, they can take advantage of Sunlight Wolf. The new fire channeler, I made a prediction a while ago that we were going to get it in this set rather than the Soul Burner set that's coming out in like a month or so. I was right. That card is really good. It just searches any generic fire by discarding a fire. I doubt it. I think it was seeing some OCG play.
You're getting a lot of like really good cards though, but like the ceiling isn't changing.
Oh yeah, the ceiling hasn't changed.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a new like best deck that's coming out with Dune.
Purely,
Vanadium is actually getting a lot better.
I think Vanadium might be a top deck contender right now. There are a lot of other things sprinkled in there. The Earth's Arctic cards are like neat. They're all right. I personally,
the Earth's Arctic cards.
They're all right. They're there.
Wait.
I am personally of the opinion that I don't understand why they chose to make the new Runic card. I don't know.
Generator support.
I guess.
It's like it ties the lore in even more. and it's a rank 9, or it's a level 9 you can use to turbo out the new XYZ from Hypernova.
Ah,
I actually think Rescue Ace can play fairly well against Runic.
Yeah,
Not going second, but going
I
first. Going for
they
if
do the
Rescue
Mud
Ace
Dragon
goes,
setup.
yeah, I probably agree with that. The thing with Rescue Ace is that if you catch them in a weird spot, like it dies to interruption if you get the interrupted at the wrong time.
Yeah.
And then if you have the right out to cards, like it dies to side deck really hard, as Marty has said before. It dies to a lot of board breakers. But I mean, it's very decent. I think the deck's very decent. I just don't think that it is as crazy as people are hyping it up to be. And I hope that I'm right so I can pick my cards back up.
Of these two decks, but I think Rescue Ace is going to be the next new deck that has the most room for utility in it. At least for like, because the engine is relatively, it's not small, but when you like compare it to something like Cash and Super Heavy, I think there's a similarity there in terms of how much non-engine you can fit in. Because when I was looking at a lot of sample lists, I'm seeing a lot of like 6 hand traps, super poly, 2 books, or 2 sets of different books. Extra deck is all toolbox, which I think is interesting.
The
think
extra
the
deck, I
difference
definitely agree. I may be 100% incorrect here, but when I was testing with it, I had the exact opposite conclusion. I
Really?
felt like in order to, and again, this is pre-Dune support, an alert or not alert, the new
emergency.
quick play
Emergency.
helps a lot with the consistency of getting Hydrant out, but the current version of the deck is very much Hydrant or bust. If you can't
Yeah.
get to Hydrant, the deck is really tough to keep playing. I found that I had to play an absolutely massive engine to be
Really?
able to make the deck function consistently.
I
And
don't
it
know if you ever
lowered the
played
ceiling
Massive.
substantially, but I
Interesting.
had to play all sorts of stuff.
I
I'm
think
not,
the difference is that Cash, each card does so much. Like you read
Yeah.
Birth, it does so much. Theos is just fetching out a monster from deck is like,
yeah.
wow, right? Like each card, Fenrir alone is like, what the hell?
Yeah.
So each card is just doing so much, whereas Rescue Ace, each card is not doing that much, but in collective, it can do like set 4 off one like combo.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Let me clarify by what I meant. I think that what I found, basically that it just has a collectively in like form of 1 to 2 card combos. Like even Hydrant on its own or Airlifter on its own is a 1 card combo that goes into a pretty good setup. But I'm like looking at a list that I have right now, and I see 3, 6, 9, 12, 15 non-engine, which is roughly around
That's pretty
at least kind of an
substantial.
idea that you want. And then the extra is all toolbox. But I just think it's interesting that we're getting another deck, like we were saying earlier, that is might be more counterative to the meta, rather than a deck maybe like Manatium that is so focused on having a lot of then engine pieces and then being built off that. So I think it's just cool that we're getting something that might be more adaptive.
I agree. That's
Rather
fair.
than like build a board or less not an engine basically.
I will also say, to the deck's credit, it's super fun to play.
It really is.
It's a
the
very fun
goofiest
deck to
archetype.
play. Yeah, it
Bias.
100% biased,
100%.
absolutely. But
I was
it is a
recently
really
convinced on this
enjoyable
deck.
deck to play.
I was recently pilled onto this deck, and after like
Yeah.
seeing that everything is commons, by the way, from the new set, which is hilarious considering the deck has
Really? Emergency is a common?
emergency and
Emergency
preventer
and
are
Preventer
commons.
are both commons.
What?
Versus alert, rescue, turbulence, and hydrant being all ultras from Amazing Defenders. This is going to be another situation where you just, after you pick, if you had the original stuff, you're just plussing because you just have to find like 6 cards this weekend that are going to be in like everyone's packs. Anyways, so so this is an option moving forward. I guess we're kind of like, we can maybe close out on WCQ talk unless there isn't really, there's something more. I was just going to point out that, I mean, the obvious thing was we have a lot of Cash in representation. I thought it was interesting that there was more Dragon Link in Top Cut. as well as there's more so in top 32 for Manadium, but there's also a lot of purely in top 32 going upward into top 8. There's one top 8 purely player, but then the rest was Cash Tira.
Yeah, there was a lot of cash, but I was a little surprised by the spread of the other decks that were present up there. I think that a lot of the format started to get stale after a while. I think a lot of people started to try and find decks that were high power level, but also like preferential. Not everyone, and so that's why we saw stuff like Dragon Link that has a big cult following.
Hey, we have
but
some cult followers in Beige.
We
do indeed.
do have some deck fanatics.
Yeah.
Something funny I'm just looking at right now for this top 32, top 64 breakdown. So there's this is on YGO Pro Deck, and I'll link this down below. And they have the numbers here. You want to know what the 2 most expensive decks are in this breakdown? They have the
Dragon
exact
Link has
price.
to be. It's Dragon Link and Hero, I would guess.
What do you think, Amar?
Expensive?
Yeah.
This
This might be average numbers, but
like max rarity, low rarity, like
that's what I don't know what they're basing it off of.
Because there was one Hero guy in Top Cut. I don't know how he made it there, but there was a Hero player.
Yeah, shout
in
out to
Top Cut
him.
in that.
He was the American
Crazy.
I'd say Hero and like Lab.
So the 2 most expensive decks in all of top 64, they are both at least labeled on this chart. Maybe they have some like unlabeled ones, but they are both Manadium players. The most expensive deck listed is $1,095 for a Manadium deck. And then the next one is like 900 and something. I don't know how real these numbers are, but I just thought that was funny.
YCS Vegas was the week after Cash Tira came out. So if you wanted to play Cash Tira, you had to pre-order it. I think I pre-ordered my Cash Tira deck for somewhere around $700 for the core. Because, you know, it was going to be the best deck of the format. Surely it holds its value, right?
Sure. You did get a YCS top.
I did, but a Rise Heart is worth $3 right now. $3.
You know, you see all these decks up here in like top 32, but how are we not talking about the real winner of the NAWCQ?
Then who might that be?
Eradicator.
Yeah, Eradicators.
We saw Jeremy like pull this off like how many times? This dude Jeremy pulled it off like 3-4 times.
Look, him pulling it off though makes it less of a labyrinth problem though.
And you even in the finals, you started to see Cash Tira was playing Eradicator. They were tributing their Rise Hearts off. Like it is becoming, you're just finding a way to fit it into the deck. I have a very close friend who is a trap deck fanatic, and he swears that Eradicator is fair, that it's super difficult to set up on turn 0, that there's and respectfully, I think that's the dumbest thing that's ever come out of his mouth. And there are so many dumb things that have come out of his mouth.
Eradicator.
Round 1
wannabe
of my YCS.
Reveal Eradicator.
Yeah, exactly. And now the new thing that's coming out.
The new Butler. Butler's so good.
Round 1 of my YCS, I played against Labyrinth. And game 1, he eradicated me for my whole hand. So I lost. And game 2, I opened weak, and I activated Pot of Desires, and I banished all 3 copies of Ray. And I wanted to drop out of the tournament right then. I was like, this is over.
Crazy.
I don't know how I won that match.
And then you heard Amar's words from YCS Charlotte.
I think this hand is playable.
See, I guess of the 3 people in this call, I've probably played Lab the most. Eradicator is an unfair card, but what makes me so upset then is if you put Eradicator in a room with then the power behind all the cash spells and then all the runic spells. If Eradicator like it's unfortunate that that is what is required for a deck like Lab to really keep up with combo decks like Cash and Runic. And so it's like especially that argument is then said with Floodgates as well. I wish there was something that could make those decks more viable against, because traps already on their own are worse than every other card archetype.
They've given so much to traps.
They have.
But still, inherently, the type of card is. I think that we're noticing this kind of trend recurring more and more frequently, that rogue players are getting disproportionately punished by the existence of cards that are needed to keep the meta in check. So cards like Eradicator, like you said, are kind of sort of needed against Cash Tira. Not necessarily, but it's you don't, right? But to a degree, Eradicator is a way to mitigate the power level of Cash Tira because their spells are so powerful.
It's how you scale.
You still can search off Unicorn, so it's not like truly, but I get your logic there. The issue that you run into is that it disproportionately completely obliterates worse decks.
Yeah.
To the point. So, and we noticed this similarly with DP when DPE came out. I personally thought he was a very fun card to play around. I thought it was very interactive. I enjoyed the back and forth of it. And I liked him in the format. I played against a Paleozoic player at a regional one time, and I made DP, and that was it. I didn't have to make anything else. I didn't have to use my extra deck. That card single-handedly beat his deck. And I think we've noticed that thing coming more and more, where the power level of generic splashable cards in the game is making it really difficult to play off meta.
Yeah, I mean, that is really funny that you mentioned Paleo, because I mean that is around the time when Ronin was still legal, and I think maybe Verte was still legal at that point when DPE came out. But yeah, it's just like, yeah, we are, like Amar said, we're getting a lot of good trap support, but I just think that, like, I mean, even with Floodgates, with Eradicator, if any of the other viruses were any good, we saw Full Force recently with the rise of Vanquish Soul, and then Deck Dev when Super Heavy was legal for a week. I'm never going to be over that.
1-0 lifetime against Super Heavy!
Yeah, it's just a lot of trap decks without their Floodgates or without their massive, like, Eradicator style cards are always going to be 1-for-1 type interactions unless something then is broken. But usually at that point, it is something that is, like, either limit or ban worthy that has come into discussion. Do you guys think Eradicator is going to get hit anytime soon?
I think it just needs to go. It doesn't even balance the meta. It's just a blowout. Like, you Eradicator someone's hand, like Jeremy Mitchell did, like, twice. You see him, like, Eradicator their entire hand. Even, like, 4 cards, it's like, dude, how do you play? If they have, like, 1 or 2 interactions, you can't play through that with 1 card in hand.
Could
like,
they...
It's not even, like, to balance. To balance the meta would be, like, oh, you're a lab player, you have something to counter, like, evenly. Oh, you're a lab player, you can protect your back row with, like, Heavenly Prison. Plus generate advantage, plus, like, do whatever, right? Like, that's cool. That's, like, countering the meta. That's, like, protecting your plays as a trap player, allowing you to actually play, like, your strat. Eradicator is like, I'm gonna blow you out of this game. Like, you're done after I resolve this card.
Could we see an errata like they did Crush Card?
I doubt it. I think that erratas at this point are few and far between. I don't know if we're going to see it get banned on this next list. I mean, we saw Mystic Mind linger for so long. I think it is ban worthy, in my opinion. I've heard the arguments about why it's not. I understand that in some situations, functionally, Feather Duster can be as big of a blowout. I think that it's a very dishonest argument, but I think the card should go.
Probably around Age of Overlord with the new Butler, I think, is when we might see... Master Duel got limited recently, which totally means everything for our metagame. But, like...
Right.
But we could maybe see something like that around then.
I think if it's still around when the new Labyrinth card, when the Butler comes out, it's going to be a period of pain.
Yeah, we're gonna be suffering. I'm going to be inflicting it. Anyways, let's talk. We started to talk about Dune a bit. We talked about Rescue Ace, so I think we can save conversation on that. Especially if how long that might have took. But so we have a bunch of cool archetypes coming out in this, or cards getting support. We have, like I mentioned earlier, Synchron's getting support. Manadium is getting a lot of support, or at least
from baby.
which is also Manadium support. I've heard. They have an AFD combo that is really good.
It's also tier support.
It is tier support. It's also ABC support.
I think tier is super playable right now.
I think once the variants.
Nobody said anything to that. I was hoping for like a yeah, I agree, but everyone was just silent.
It's
Logan's
it's Logan's pet deck.
The new piece of synchro.
I sold it to her. I traded it to him.
Yeah, so we're getting that new Infernoble support, which is supposedly good. I've heard.
Yeah,
but...
I have heard that Infernoble is potentially in a good place. I also think Infernoble is, out of every deck in the history of Yu-Gi-Oh, maybe the biggest cope deck of all time, where every players are always saying it's about to be crazy. I have watched that deck be about to be crazy for 11 years or something.
Can we talk about the real threat? Unchained.
Unchained is really good.
I'm kidding.
Unchained's really good.
I think Curly is also going to be.
It does what it does better now, but
if I don't play Rescue Aces format, I'm playing Purely, and so I'm like, I need something.
I think Purely is in a very solid spot right now. I think going second Purely was already a very viable strategy after the hits that the deck took. I think the new support adds a lot of consistency to it.
I'm seeing mixed opinions on Shirley. People are either like, they really love the card, or they just really don't like it. And they're just thinking that going second is still like the best thing to do, whereas then I'm seeing lists where it's like 2 Leap, 1 Shirley. I think it's cool that Lily is fairly generic. I've heard talks of it replacing Oni Maru in rank 2 extra decks. Since you can basically bounce anything rather than
Lily is generic?
Yeah. Bro, all the
Lily?
I keep calling this Lily. Purely Noir.
Oh.
The sorry to all the viewers at home. The
Little Noir?
Little Noir.
Yeah, Little Noir.
Yeah. I've heard talks of that replacing Onibimaro, which I thought was something. We're getting the new monster type illusionist. I've heard the Chimera fusion is really good, and it is something you can do in branded. So branded will never go away.
There's a bit of sprinkled in Dino support in there.
Yeah, the Rex Raptor stuff, which some of it isn't bad from what I've heard. It like just more ways to pop babies.
Yeah, the new level 2.
The Evilsaur XYZ is really good, from what I remember. It's a rank 6 that is generic versus Logia and Dolkia, but it's basically Hot Red Dragon Archfiend. And if you have reptiles and or dinosaurs as material, you can detach 1 material instead of 2, which is pretty neat. We got a new TCG exclusive archetype, Tristinia.
This is the one that I really wanted to talk about. So, have you guys read through? This is the new TCG exclusive archetype that. Well, I guess have you guys read through the cards at all yet?
It's Daruma Karma Cannon .deck.
Yes.
Have you actually read through these cards?
Yeah. It's basically what Marty said. They have 2 boss-ish monsters that are both set all cards your opponent has, and anything that can't be set is sent to grave. What is that? Wipe that face.
I'm sorry. I'm laughing at Amar. I'm laughing at Amar.
What is that?
I'm reading these cards right now. What is this?
I thought I was laughing because I thought that face read, "You read these cards?"
Yeah, I thought that was the face.
Also, yeah, why did you read these cards?
Because listen, historically,
you don't play Yu-Gi-Oh for months. You come back, top of YCS, then you don't play for months. And then you're like, oh, let me read Tristinia.
Listen, if there's one thing historically in Yu-Gi-Oh that I have enjoyed, it's TCG exclusive archetypes. I think Burning Abyss is the best deck that has ever been made, no matter what anyone says. Burning Abyss forever, baby. I think Cosmo is the second best deck that's ever been made, right after Burning Abyss, which were both TCG. I think that TCG exclusive archetypes, a lot of the time, and by a lot of time I mean exactly twice, are really, really fun. So when I see a new TCG exclusive archetype come out, I go, ooh.
It's the jangle the keys, the
Yeah,
ding 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 ding.
exactly. I think this deck has a lot of potential. I think there are a lot of cards in this deck that
It loses to Dark Hole, it loses to Raigeki, it loses to Flashing Fire, it loses to
You didn't even let him
Storming
finish.
Mirror Force.
You didn't even
keep
let
going.
him
No, keep going.
finish.
List a couple more. List a couple
I'm
more.
so sorry, but like
No,
as
list
long as you don't
like
commit
4 or
to
5
any
more.
monster- Isn't that right? Like you just don't commit
It's
to
a
any
going
monster.
second deck. It's a going second deck.
It's a going second deck?
Yeah, it's a going second board clear deck.
It's going straight into the garbage deck. It's so bad.
They're definitely
Why would you play
missing
Striker
a
The
going
deck
second
has
wave.
potential. Listen, it needs some more support. It definitely is not like a top tier contender right now. But the monsters that you have, a lot of the little guys are hand extenders, so it's pretty easy to swarm. The big guys are both pretty decent effects. You have one that's an ignition effect to do the Daruma cannon. The other is a quick effect, I believe, as long as you have the first guy on board. So you have a decent amount of board clearing potential. The big issue is that it needs more ways when it books a monster to then remove that monster. It's really good at getting rid of links, but if it's playing against something else, it needs a better way to actually permanently clear the board.
Hear me out. Nobleman of Crossout.
Hear me out. It plays against Subterror and just loses.
Who is playing Subterror?
Subterror.
You're saying that this deck loses to Subterror and that's
what?
why it's unplayable.
You know what? I want to see that as a money match right now.
This
Ticinia
deck
versus
would
Subterror.
It loses
Right.
to Cash.
Well,
It loses to
everything
Rescue
loses
Ace.
to Cash. What are you talking
It
about?
loses to Rescue Ace. It loses to Vanadium. It loses to Lab. What monsters are you gonna flip?
What are you going to play next time on a Mars Sprite again for the 6th year in a row?
Let's go, baby!
Man adds 1 Rex, 1 Runic Engine.
Donpa,
Also the
Donner.
new deck.
Amar's the most boomer of Yu-Gi-Oh players. He's like, it took him forever to get off Sword Soul.
Listen.
For reading off Tri Brigade, are you kidding me? Oh my god.
Okay, what
Okay, but
what carried you in the 3v3 at YCS Charlotte?
Tim.
I don't think Tim won a single game. Tim, I'm so sorry.
Tim went undefeated in Swiss.
No, you know what Tim
in
did?
Charlotte. Oh, sorry. I thought you said Vegas. Oh, what
Yeah.
carried me in the 3v3 in Charlotte?
Yes.
Kinda.
Okay, anyways. It was my wise words. Also,
It was your wise words. You looked in my hand. You said, I don't know what any of your cards do.
but I have faith in you. You don't forget the last part. Also,
In my opinion, the first part is more important than the second part.
we're forgetting like probably the most OP deck in the meta right now, Mikanko.
Shoutouts, boy, Lil Tim.
Undefeated at this OTS championship, got first place with Mikanko.
They have
That
new
deck
support.
is surprisingly scary.
Yeah, they have new support. I've heard.
Check out his deck profile on our channel. Congrats to him. He did really well at Nats.
Yeah,
Oh,
I've
he
heard
dates
the.
with Nats with Mikanko.
Yeah, he did take it to Nats. You can hear his griefing story on the channel.
Yeah.
That was so unfortunate.
Also, theoretically, pretty soon we'll have another deck profile from Nats from our boy Xander, who ended just below top cut. He ended X3 with Kashtira at Nats, so we'll have that up pretty soon as well.
Another Kashtira profile.
Yes, it's this time. This one's really creative.
Also, Xander's not getting you a deck profile anytime in the next 3 to 5 business months. Like that's just not happening.
I already filmed it. We
It's
don't have to
still
upload
If it's
it.
coming from
but if
Theo,
we-
maybe it'll
If we
make
don't
it to me.
upload it, we have to cut this part out, and also I'm gonna feel really bad because he was so excited about getting a deck profile, and we had to like sign paperwork with Konami. And we had to give them our addresses and
Okay.
everything,
Well-
and verify with them so they can use our content if they want to. We had to sign waivers. It was crazy. There was like an official content area we were in. We had to go
I
through
knew
a bunch
that.
of paperwork. Yeah, it was wild.
I
We didn't
knew
have to
that
do any
about
of that
Philly
for-
because that was the concerns I had filming the vlog content at Philly.
At Vegas, the only interaction we had with judges in the content area was put your mask back on.
Oh yeah, that made it into the video.
Yeah, I was hoping you would have got that.
It was too fast of a for it to happen, and then it was in the middle, so there wasn't like cushion room for me to
It
just.
was too fast of a video. It was only
Yeah.
26 minutes.
Yeah, it was too fast of a video. But anyways, yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff in Duelist Nexus. Okay, so but we're saying that we think Mannadium's gonna be really good post Dune, regardless of a ban list. Purely is probably gonna be 1.52. I think 1.5.
Lumper
Yeah.
bust, baby.
Yeah, I think
I-
Go ahead.
I do think that ultimately, other than maybe Mannadium, basically what we said at the beginning, I don't think that Dune has anything crazy enough to replace the current best decks.
Yeah,
I think that Cash is still very powerful. I think that Despia is still very powerful. Labyrinth is still very powerful. Runic is still very powerful.
yeah.
Mannadium is just being added along to that as well. I
1.5.
think until we see what
You wanna go to locals?
right now, not really.
What are you gonna do the rest of the night?
We'll talk about it after we're done recording. How about that?
I think this
Mar,
is
you're
good
making me do so much work.
No, you can leave this in
so
there.
much.
But I'm just saying it's almost time for locals.
It is almost time for locals, and we're about to
I
wrap it
actually
up.
don't think I could make it to locals in time if I left now.
No shot.
It takes like an hour and 20 minutes to get there.
Oh,
To Curio?
Oh, to Curio!
Why would we go to Dream?
I don't know. I've never been to the Curio non-Springfield before.
Really?
Centerville.
Let me
I
check.
don't think I've ever been to Centerville.
it'd be like it'd be like. Well, I don't want to dox Theo's location, but
I don't care. I'll send you my exact address. Any person
on the screen
like
right
and
now.
subscribe to Team Beige. I will send you my address, my credit card, my social security number, and $4 cash.
That might be more of a liability for them. Curio.
But yeah, no, there's I agree. I think there's a lot of cool stuff coming out of Dune. It's not going to replace anything given a ban list or without a ban list. Personally, I think we're getting a ban list after Worlds.
Yeah, I probably agree.
I just don't
Let's
think.
talk about Worlds real quick. Let's talk about Worlds
Sure.
super quick before we wrap up here. Worlds has always been a bit of a, it's a show. The mixed ban list is always, Blue Eyes won, Teller Knight won. But we're in a really interesting position for Worlds this year. Because Labyrinth is almost completely untouched.
So I have
Oh,
I have a theory.
Icebreaker.
I have a theory, and shared it with some people. I think this year's Worlds is going to be like 2018 Worlds. So in 2018 Worlds, we had just came out of Striker was just released, but I think there was maybe there wasn't limitations yet. But basically, the main decks were Salad, Trickstar. No, Striker was legal. Yeah, Striker's legal, and then where's this 2019 Worlds? Whichever this Worlds
This is
was.
2019, I think.
Yeah, so Salad, whichever Worlds had Altergeist and Salad.
Mhm.
I think that Lab is going to be the Altergeist of this Worlds, where you have everyone skilled, either if they don't do cash. They're going to bring Lab to Worlds. The entire side deck is going to be targeted towards Lab. So you're going to be getting a lot of Lab mirrors, a lot of maybe going to time, whatever. What's a deck right now that plays a similar resource loop like Salad?
Shut up, Marty. Shut up.
Theo, do you have
I
an
know
idea?
exactly what you're getting at.
Bro, you just bought this deck for nothing.
I don't think I get what you're saying. I am of the opinion that Vanquish Soul
Okay, at least it was clear.
just not. It's just not at the level. Like, there are too many choke points in the deck. If you don't open Ryzen, it's already so bad news bears. There are too many points where if you get interrupted, especially under floodgates, it just struggles a lot. I don't know if I am ready to put my eggs into the Vanquish Soul basket. I think it's a very cool deck, but
I don't think it's well. Okay, so I just think that we're gonna enter that type of like scenario where you have this massive control deck that's gonna take up the most of the population, and then I think there's going to be a deck. The deck I thought of was Vanquish Soul, because of the amount of tops when I had this thought. But a deck like Vanquish Soul is going to go into Worlds. Maybe it could be Rika, but basically have enough non-engine.
Rika is also almost untouched for Worlds, which is terrifying.
Have enough skill and non-engine and not be so targeted that I think it's going to sneak its way into the top either pairings.
I agree with the logic.
Yeah,
I agree with the logic. I think I would probably put more merit on Rika than on Vanquish Soul, personally.
Wasn't there some Worlds, DB Grinder or something? I don't know. Someone hosted like some Worlds tournament where like Lab did well, Brandon did well, something like that.
I think Jessica Robinson just announced today that she's planning on hosting a free-to-enter Worlds format tournament.
Yeah, you should enter that with Striker, and Marty, you should enter that with VS.
Bro, I'd rather Gishki hand loop myself than deal with opening Raisin, Madlove, Borger, Prosperity, just for Prosperity to get ashed. That is why I got rid of the deck.
Listen, Runic Vanquish Soul goes hard.
Is that
you just bounce and draw into your Raisin?
Yeah. I'm just gonna Borger reveal.
Are you just saying that drawing cards is good? Is that the argument here?
Yeah,
drawing cards is good.
Wait, hold up. How the hell are you getting rid of Hugin to summon Rock?
You're just linking it away. Come on, Fenrir plus Hugin makes IP. You don't know the materials.
His argument is just that it likes drawing cards. Every deck likes drawing cards.
This is why I hate Runic at this point.
No, there's some decks that don't like drawing cards. Actually,
name 7.
7.
No, Empty Jar likes
That's
to
what
draw.
I thought. That's what I thought. That's what I thought.
Anyways, I think that is a great note to end it off here. Thank you everyone for dealing with the bit of chaos for this episode. We're kind of like getting into the gears of Team Beige talks, but I think this was a overall informative discussion.
To be clear, getting into the gears doesn't mean that future episodes will be less chaotic.
Oh yeah, no, I think we're just gonna get even worse. Any closing thoughts that y'all have regarding what we talked about today, things to look forward to? How's your day going? I don't care. I'm gonna put maybe some music over this and then just it'll be like a nice little moment.
The fade out back end. Well, no.
Do not get used to me being on this. Let me reiterate, I am not a co-host. Marty and Theo are the two donkeys that are co-hosting this. I am just here for support. In fact, I'm actually working right now.
So Theo, what we need to do is we need to have a visual tracker. I'll make it in Streamlabs. A visual tracker for how many times Amar appears in an episode.
Make a visual tracker for how many
times.
No,
that visual tracker is in the title because it'll be the episode number because he's going to be in every episode.
Make a donkey counter. You know how... Actually, what is the thing on Twitch? I am a boomer. On Twitch, if you get like
crazy.
Right?
Oh yeah, we have a Twitch now. That is something that is in the description. Look at our cool little sub notifications that I'm gonna shoot up on the screen right now.
We're all over the place.
Oh, if they're fucking okay, they didn't go up. Anyways, yeah, we're gonna have more episodes soon. This might be weekly, this might be bi-weekly. We'll figure it out. But anyways, we'll be bringing you.
I'm excited to join the TBT team.
Yeah,
we'll be pumping some content out for y'all.
Yeah,
thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Theo.
Amar, I'm really not looking forward to the fact that you are going to be on every single episode of this show for as long as it runs.
He's gonna like FaceTime us during it, like just out of nowhere, and he's gonna be like, see, this is how he did it. All right.
It's a 40-minute drive for you.
It's time to for them to go to locals. Thank you everyone for watching, and we'll see y'all later. Peace.